One thing, I don't know if you wanted to add any more to that particularly at this time, but one thing I wanted to talk about from last year that I got really excited about that's kind of I guess it kind of fits the quality pigeonhole is from VCon about conditional damage mods. Do you remember this last year? When it was maybe serration will go away and the whole discussion on serration being a must-have on every rifle weapon, and instead making more conditional damage mods that cater to different playstyles. So damage on headshot, damage on procced enemy, damage on unaware enemy, stuff like that. Is just your general feeling about kind of shaking up the damage mod system a little bit? Is that something you would define under your quality banner this year, or are you oh really?
I think so. Without having thought enough about the consequences. I mean, we've thought about it in the past, but I think from a super high level, you look at the mess of the solar chart and where you can play and what you can do, and the complexity there. So I think there's opportunities to look at those other systems as well, and looking at ways of bringing in difficulty level. And I think that's kind of part of it. I think is if you're going to mess with serration, you're messing with enemy levels, you're messing with output damage, you're messing with those sorts of things. And if you want to do that, I think it means you look at the whole animal and make adjustments rather than just crapping on a few mods and calling it done.
Are there any thoughts or solutions on the mandatory damage mod situation, which as a whole, the mandatory mod situation?
You're looking at me. Do you want me to spill what Scott is doing?
Well, I want to.
Yes.
I feel like we are most well versed on it, so it's probably our conversation.
Well, everyone likes to bitch about. There's no choice to be made for the first 3 mods you put on your gun. It's going to be serration.
We're talking primary rifles here.
Yeah, like it's going to be serration, shred, and multi-shot.
Yeah.
It's always going to be damage, multi-shot,
or the equivalents for their whatever.
But at least the first 2 is going to be damage and multi-shot. There's no downside of using multi-shot. There's no reason you wouldn't fit it other than the fitting points. So you punch out a V slot, you put a polarity on there, and it's de rigueur. It's always there.
Yep.
So Scott decided.
Don't throw him under the bus. Okay. This is a big discussion.
Some people.
A broader discussion resulted in Scott's.
An anonymous group of local adjutants have got together, formed a Politburo, and ratified the proposal that multi-shot will increase your ammo consumption.
Right. So
and it's a nightmare because you're going to have to rebalance a lot of guns.
Yes.
But it will make you think carefully about whether you want to pay that double, like in the case of that heck mod, Scattered Justice, is it?
Yes, that's plus 100.
It's a complete doubling of your fire
It's
rate.
worth noting that these conversations occurred before the release of the primary syndicate stuff last week, or this week, I should say. Like, because a lot of people feel that not being able to use that mod on the
Well, that was part of the discussion too, because he was saying, like, if we change what multi-shot costs, if multi-shot is going to cost, then that augment won't be as awesome for every gun, so maybe you don't necessarily want it.
Right.
So having multi-shot may not always be the best choice for what you're doing.
So Croia asks, the only thing we know about Damage 3.0 is that it's supposed to get rid of mandatory damage mods. Is this backburnered, being idly worked on, or is it subject to death by Riven? Asks Croia.
Oh, can I see that question?
You may.
That's a very good question.
It's in a box. I like their terminology that they used, death by Riven.
Yeah.
I think when we initially talked about some of the damage stuff, it was removing the serrations and stuff and making them less needed.
Yes.
This was very early last year, I believe.
It was quite early.
That we were doing some prototypes and changes. I think. I think the game has evolved. I'm not saying Riven is the answer to that, but I think
it's part of it.
Yeah, we're gonna have a more holistic look at all of it.
Yes.
Before we make any decisions about what's coming and what's going.
Yes.
Versus we're saying we're going to remove serration or anything.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Well, we released Prime Pressure Point, right? So and that was after that conversation. So damage mods, and that's why Sheldon's no longer here on the couch.
Yeah, because he keeps priming shit.
People work hard to become as powerful as they do in Warframe, and so the question is, how do you make the combat more interesting and still require skill, and still respect the amount of time you've invested to become powerful? And I do see it as something interesting with Warframe is rather than getting 0.1% damage boost when you're playing and working with your mods, you're getting significant power increases. I think that's kind of interesting about Warframe, so I want to try to keep that. So maybe Damage 3.0 is not as much about messing with your loadouts as a player, but maybe Damage 3.0 is about introducing new tiers of enemies and new ways of fighting them that bring out more of the skill, despite that fact that you can smush a minion in a second flat.
Swazdula, you buttercups, how the hell are you? Right, let's talk about the mod system just a wee bit. For those of you who happen to give a shit, by the way, yes, I'm doing very, very well. Actually, I've been pretty in a very, very decent, even happy mood since yesterday or so, for reasons I don't want to get into. And it's just really nice. So I know that I caused some concern with some of my more recent videos and the tone of my voice. So I figured I might as well let you guys know things are nice right now. At least I feel nice. So that's great. Right. Let's get into it though. There is this thing called the Mandatories in Warframe when it comes to modification. Warframe has hundreds of mods across the board, right? Naturally, some of them are going to be considered top tier or whatever, and others not so much. You have your mods like Serration versus a mod like Suppress. Now, the Mandatories, for those of you who didn't catch at all what that is or what that means and don't understand the context to the clips that I just provided at the beginning of the video, the Mandatories are essentially mods that you will find on every freaking build. It's like such a no-brainer to throw them on there. Like, for example, Serration, Hornet Strike, Split Chambers, so the multi-shots and whatnot, because they just straight up increase your flat damage, right? Now, before we even get into that and how we could maybe approach fixing that or making that more interesting, we need to back up a little bit and consider, is this even a problem? Now, I remembered just out of the blue the other day that DE mentioned that. It was none of the clips that I showed. I remembered distinctly a different clip. I couldn't find it though, even with the help of the Twitter hive mind. But regardless, DE has obviously spoken about these kinds of mandatory mods and whatnot. And as of today, 2020, I cannot confirm or deny if someone at DE maybe still feels that there might be a problem with them or not at all. I don't know. Regardless though, I see a problem. And during my research, I found out that there is a large group of players out there that actually would really like to see these mods gone. Now, sure, the elegant version would be to just, not the elegant version, but the crude, easy, lazy version would be to just straight out remove them. But we all know what'll happen then. Many other people who like these mods and want these mods and all that will be butthurt. But again, back up a little bit, what is the actual problem with them? Are they even a problem? Now, there's nothing wrong with these mods, and nobody really wants these mods to just flat out disappear because they're like the big bad wolf or anything. No. The only problem is that they kind of take away from diversity. And the reason is this: you have all of these mods in Warframe, right? And you have limited mod space on everything modifiable in the game, right? So naturally you will have to select, you will have to prioritize which mods you prefer to use. Now, in Warframe, nobody in their right mind is going to put on a Suppress, for example, or a Ammo Drum, or whatever, on a, I don't know, let's say Soma, for example, instead of a multi-shot, or a Shred mod, or a Serration mod, or whatever. No one would ever in their right mind do that. So, what happens is there's this dynamic where these mods, there are only a handful of them, thank goodness, but these handful of mods you will find on every freaking build of any freaking weapon, because there's A, no reason to use anything else, and B, you have limited mod space. So there have been ideas out there that people threw out, like players, where they suggested, how about we just remove the ranks on these mods? Looking at Serration again, Serration has 10 ranks. You can rank it up with your fusion stuff and whatnot, and get it from rank 0 to rank 10 to have its full capacity or its full potential. That's all fine and dandy. A suggestion that has been made was to remove that rank entirely. It's just Serration mod as is, only has one rank, one state of existence, so to speak, and as your weapon that it's installed on ranks up in level, so will the potency of that mod. Sure, that would be one way to do it. However, I see no place for a system like that in Warframe. A system like that works really well in, let's say, an MMO or something, or any other game, if you will, but not really in Warframe, in my opinion. Because you'd still have these mods existing, still taking up mod space, and they'd still be mandatory, regardless of how they rank up and whatnot. They'd still be on everything, right? Also, you would have to ask the question, what do we do with all of the other mods then? What, are they going to behave the same way? How is Suppress, as an example, going to work? As your weapon ranks up, the weapon will become more quiet? That doesn't really make any sense. So, and there are a lot of other things out there that are like that. A lot of other suggestions out there that people have made that are fine and dandy and everything. And so these people who want these mods gone, they want the diversity back in the game. Imagine these mods wouldn't exist. You would be forced to think, how do you want to modify your weapon that has nothing to do with damage, really? Sure, you have your 60-60 double stat mods and whatnot, which you will use, and yeah, sure, but those are like, I call them smaller mods because the effect that they bring isn't super severe. You know, you get 60% extra status chance and 60% extra toxin damage, let's say. Whoop-de-doo. That's still way less than 165% extra flat damage. You know what I mean? So those smaller mods are like, okay, I don't think we need to do anything with them. But imagining that the serrations, the split chambers, and etc., would not exist, then your weapon would deal whatever damage that it does. The only thing that you can really increase or focus on increasing is weapon handling. So do you want a larger magazine? Do you want a faster reload coupled with a larger magazine, perhaps, or not? You know, these kinds of things. You can really focus more on utility opposed to damage, because damage in Warframe is king. Damage is the most seductive feature that Warframe has, right? Right now, and our mentality as players is, if you can kill everything with yellow crits, but you have the option to do it with red crits, everybody and their mother is going to mod for red crits, because, I don't know, it's shiny or some shit, right? So these players that want to see these mods gone, they want to bring that diversity back, give us the freedom to modify our weapons according to utility, opposed to getting a boner off of pure damage, right? Which I think is a good idea, because diversity is one of Warframe's strongest cases. I really like having options in this game, or any game really, but Warframe has a really good way of bringing options to the table, right? On the other side, you got the players who are totally against it. They're afraid that if these mods get flat out removed, that it would just nerf everything and whatnot, which, by the way, in this day and age and state of Warframe, wouldn't even be that horrible, because essentially everything got nerfed anyway. The enemies, that is. Enemies are easier to kill if you mod correctly, so having less damage at your disposal may not be all that bad. But I'm not saying that they should be removed, because it leaves a bad taste in players' mouths. You work for a long while to get these mods, to acquire this power. That's what Warframe's core gameplay is all about, power acquisition, but I might get to that in a couple of minutes. You work hard to get this shit, and then it gets taken from you. That's not a cool way to do it. That's not elegant. It might be an easy fix and all that, sure, but it's not very elegant, and it'll just piss off a lot of people. So here's my idea. Again, I'm not saying that this is a change that is necessary for Warframe, but it's something worth considering. It has been brought up in the past, not just by myself, but other players in forums and whatnot, which I discovered. I had no idea of that, but cool. I'm glad that I'm not the only one that feels this way. And also DE has brought up these things as well. So if they were to do something with that, here's the idea. How about allowing some sort of prerequisites, some sort of thing that you have to do beforehand, like for example with Forma. Before you can Forma anything in Warframe, that thing needs to reach rank 30, so max rank. Then you can Forma it, and it'll get set back to 0, and you can re-max it, right? So some sort of a prerequisite for the following. What if mods such as Shred, multi-shot mods, the Serration mod, Hornet Strike, all of these so-called mandatories, what if there was a way to merge them with your weapon? Dissolve them into your weapon, fuse them with your weapon. We already have systems that are similar to that, like example with the Kuva weapons. You can use a lower grade Kuva weapon and fuse that into a, or feed that into a better version of what you have and increase its stats, so like a buff, right? You can do the same thing with railjack weapons, where you can merge a lower grade one or a copy of one that you already have, and you have a better one installed. You can merge them together and increase the potency of the installed one just a bit. So systems similar to that already exist. So how about we could just grab the Serration mods and apply their stats to that said weapon after doing a certain whatever. Like I said, there would have to be some sort of a prerequisite. Now let's not get too hung up. This is just an idea, and I'm just giving you guys examples to make it more understandable for you guys. So let's not get too hung up on details. How that would be done, or why, and all that stuff, those are details that you can work out later. But just generally, the idea of getting rid of the Serration mods from your inventory slot, or rather from your build slot, okay? To open that slot up for other options. Now, if I would have, let's say, a Soma, I'm just using that as an example, I would max that bitch up to rank 30, right? I would have on my Formas and whatnot, 1 or 2 or however many I believe necessary, whatever, and then I would merge my Serration with that. It would have to be, let's say, a max rank Serration. Lower rank Serations would give less of a buff. And then that buff, maybe even 1-to-1, that buff would just become part of that weapon's damage, right? And you couldn't merge several, so you can't like max a Serration, put it in your Soma, then max a new one, put that in your Soma as well, and it'll keep all stacking. No, it would have to be a one-time thing per weapon. The cap would be 165%, which is what Serration brings to the table, right? It would have to stay like that, but at the very least it would remove the necessity, after doing something, remove the necessity to have that particular mod installed on your weapon, taking up a slot, which effectively means the mod is gone, it no longer exists, you had to work for it, you invested it into your weapon, and you now have that additional freedom to maybe throw on a suppress or an ammo drum or whatever you deem worthy, any kind of other utility, right? And you could do the same thing with all of these mandatory mods, so to speak. So your shreds as well, for example, your multi-shots as well, all of this. Now, some of you might think, okay, wait a minute, but isn't that a little bit OP and whatnot? No, it really wouldn't change anything. All the weapons that you find in Warframe right now would remain at the same level of power, roughly, right? Because you're not giving new mods. It's not like you're suddenly getting more damage out of your weapons than when you use 3 multi-shot mods and all the damage, flat damage increases, right? You're not getting suddenly more damage out of that. That damage is just a part of your weapon, not installed in the shape of a mod. It just becomes part of that weapon's stats. Every other mod that you can put on there, all the free space that you suddenly have and freedom to add other mods, are mostly utility, because the most mods that we have are somehow utility related. Sure, you have your pure fire speeds and you have your pure status chance increases and whatnot. Is that really that bad though? I mean, we can already go over 100% status chance as is. I don't think going a little bit further is all that bad, right? So I don't think that we would have a problem with overpowering things too much, right? Plus, you could also just kind of drop the potency of these so-called mandatory weapons if you fuse them. Not mandatory weapons, but mandatory mods. When you fuse them with your weapons, instead of having 165%, maybe drop it to 140, right? Perhaps it shouldn't be severe because then that would be viewed as a nerf and people would get mad and shit like that and whatnot. But generally, I think that this idea would be a very elegant solution that would make everyone happy. Think about it. All the people who want those mods gone because they want us to focus more on, or be able to focus more on utility and just making a weapon handle good and stuff like that, and then rely on skill beyond that point, right? They'd be happy because they could invest those mods into the weapon and clear up that space and have that variety, if you so desire. The people who are against it, that don't want these mods removed, they'll still have these mods. They'll just have the option to fuse them with the weapon. So it doesn't go bye-bye. They're not losing anything, literally. All they have to do is, if they do decide to fuse the mod, which, let's face it, they will, figure out what they want to put in its place. Suppress, or your this, or your that, all these other utility things. It's also a thing that might be very elegant for DE as a solution, because DE, they have, in terms of like developers, a problem with hoarding all of this information. Every player's account holds a shit ton of information, right? How many mods do you have? How many stats do they have? Like Rivens, for example. How many this? How many that? Oh my god, there's so much shit to remember. And the mods, they keep growing and growing and growing. The mod pool gets larger and larger. Every year we have new mods, and we already have what I would say maybe too many, but also kind of not, because the sheer volume of mods that we have is exactly what gives us the freedom and variety that we kind of want, while at the same time we have certain mandatories that nullify that. It's weird. It's like, it's a little bit clumsy. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? And all of that would just go away, partially at least, if these serration mods would disappear, essentially, from your inventory because you fuse them into a weapon of your choice. And you could fuse them into several weapons, of course, too. You'd need a new serration, maybe, perhaps. That would give us reasons to use our frickin' copies. I probably have like 200 serrations lying around right now with nothing that I can do with them other than convert them into endo or credits. Well, we just have another reason to use them. Fuse them with themselves to max them out so I can stick them into another weapon, right? Or just let them dwell on there the way they are now. This is just an option. It really opens a lot of doors and fixes some things for DE as well. They'll have less stuff to worry about, I hope. And like I said, guys, this is just an idea. We're just tossing ideas around. We're trying to make this game better. I really feel that Warframe has gotten to a point where we have so much stuff in it that we can really slow down, stop for a minute, and focus on making what we have better, okay? Because Warframe has a lot of shit in it right now, right? By shit, I don't mean bad things, but it has a lot of stuff in it, and a lot of that stuff isn't where it could be in terms of potential, like Railjack, perhaps. Railjack is much better and is continuously being hotfixed and whatnot, and it is much better. Just yesterday, I played a Railjack mission just for shits and giggles, and I had a blast, literally, because I was blowing shit out of the sky. It was fun, right? The modding system of Railjacks with the avionics is much better now. I, for the first time, finally have maxed out weaponry, and I'm having fun with them, And that's going to continue as well. But just like Railjack got this huge quality of life change, which, let's face it, we all know it should have been that from the get-go. It wasn't. No reason bitching about it, because we can't change it. What's important is now. Just like Railjack got that change and is now much, much better. Just like the Warframe revised changes where they changed the enemy armor scaling and status damages and status chances and all this shit, that huge change, just like that really, touched and made a lot of quality of life changes to the game. I think that we need to focus on doing that, but on everything almost. So stop adding new shit and focus on improving the stuff that we already have. I think that we can really get away with it, and I think that the player base would appreciate that. And this is just one more extra idea, one more extra YouTube video from some little shit with high-speed internet, right, to inspire thought for that. Let me know what you guys think. Do you feel that the mods that we have, the number of mods that we have are a problem, or is it okay? Should we get more? Should we have less? Do you guys feel that these so-called mandatory mods are a bit annoying because the way they're in there and they take up space, or do you not see any problem at all? Do you maybe have better ideas? If DE is watching, what do you guys feel? Do you think this is something that would be cool or not? You know, I'd like to know. Let me know your opinions, everything in the comment section. If you want to know another idea that I had to address specifically suppress and mods like ammo drum and whatnot, that would also be a very elegant fix in my opinion, then I highly recommend you check out my old ass but surprisingly still relevant video, 10 things or 8 things to make Warframe 10 times better, which I will link right here at the end of this video for you real quick. There I make a really good point of what we would do with junk mods. But anyways, I've taken up enough of your time. Guys, thank you very much for the watch. As usual, stay safe and healthy, and peace the fuck out.